Welcome to Go Beyond Sports with me, Sonali Gupta, bringing to you stories from people in sports. Today's guest is someone who has had the flavor of the current season, the Olympics. Nikhil Kanetkar is an Olympic badminton player from Pune, India. He has represented India in 2004 Summer Olympics in men's singles, and he has also represented India in the Thomas Cup, All England Open, Asian Games, World Championships, Commonwealth Games, SAF Games, Swiss Open, French Open, Toulouse Open, and numerous other championships. In 2011, he retired from competitive sports and set up the Nikhil Kanetkar Badminton Academy in Pune, India, with a vision of grooming talent to make champions. And currently, he is the director and head coach of the NKBA. He is also a columnist and commentator, writing for Marathi newspaper Sakal from Athens during the Olympics and covered badminton events of the 2016 Rio Olympics. Nikhil played after 7 years post-retirement and then went on to win the men's single title in the 35-plus age category in the 41st Indian Masters Veterans National Badminton Championships 2016-17. In September 2017, he's won bronze medal in the same age group at the BWF World Senior Badminton Championships. Nikhil, with so much under your belt, I really want to start with this question that I usually always begin with. What made you want to choose a sport? And then what made you want to choose badminton? What was it about a sport that you wanted to play it?
I think to start off with, during our times, there was not so much of sport like how it's now. So basically, my parents just got me a racket and we used to play in our society downstairs. And there used to be seasonal sports, like at some point hockey, then cricket, then badminton across the fence, So that's how I basically just started playing badminton.
Right. So then what really made you want to continue playing badminton? And what aspect of a sport was it that wanted you to keep playing sports?
I think the moment I started playing badminton, I really loved the sport. And apart from playing downstairs in the society when we were, around that time I was around 8 years old, I used to come back up and do a lot of wall practice. And that's something which nobody told me to do. And my grandfather was a national level player in his times. And when he saw, my parents actually asked him, what is this that he's doing, coming home and playing against a wall? So he said, no, this is something where you need to put him in a proper coaching class. And I think it was just the passion at this point of time where I was enjoying the sport and nothing more than that.
Right. And so then how did your journey and on a very, take you into playing all of these different competitive championships? And like you said, back then there wasn't so much even known about participating in so many of them. So how did you get the support to continue doing this in terms of coaching, in terms of your gear, in terms of your training, or even someone mentoring you to take it forward?
So basically, I think until the age of 14, it was just, I was enjoying the sport. Of course, I was winning at district and state levels, but not really doing much beyond at national level. As I said earlier, during those times, we didn't really have too much of sport. The only thing was my parents were very supportive. And there was a time when, say, around the 10th standard, we had to take a decision as to what I should be doing. Because that's a usual scenario which we face in our country. And it was difficult because that time it was difficult to choose sports or education. I was also a good student, so it became even more difficult to take that decision. So we decided that if I take up science, then there's no way I can continue sport at a higher level. So probably if I take commerce, which also you can do a lot of things with that, and at least I get 5 more years to play sport. So it was as simple as that. And that's what helped me take that decision. The important thing that happened at that point of time was the Prakash Padukone Academy had just started at that time. say in around 1995. And by the end of 1995, I got selected there. And I think that was the turning point of my badminton career, because I was just around 15, 16 then. And I was selected to go there. And the moment I reached there, I got to stay with the top players of the country. Of course, getting to be trained under Prakash sir and Vimal Kumar sir was really great. And because at that point, that was the only academy, and it couldn't have gotten any better beyond that at that point of time. And I
Right.
got to stay with people like Deepankar Bhattacharya, Aparna Popat, Manjusha,
Right.
Gopi and me stayed in the same room for 3 years. So I
Wow.
think these learning experiences really changed my mindset. And that's when I really started believing that uh, I can do well. I can also aspire to play for the country and do well. And being part of that elite group, that's
Right.
what made the difference.
Right. So tell me, you were just mentioning about how you started, at the age of 15 and 16 versus today, where parents are actually, beginning as early as an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old, and we have an under 10. And so the competition level has really gone down so much more younger. Do you think that it really is very important to have someone start as young as an 8, 9-year-old to actually go out there and achieve a bigger platform on a bigger platform? Or do you think there are certain talents which may have a late start and still can be groomed to go there further? Is there any kind of a difference between this?
I think starting early always helps, because you're then building yourself up in the particular sport in the right way. And kids are easier to mold when they are say below 10. So I mean they pick up faster. So the skill levels are you can really develop the skill levels in a right way if they are very young. Of
Right.
course, there have been cases where players have also started late and picked up faster and still done well. But I think the only challenge of starting early is sometimes there's too much pressure from the outside to perform. And that becomes a challenge, because if a kid starts doing well at a very early age, uh, sometimes they find it difficult to perform at the higher stages, which is what eventually matters.
Right.
And I think that's what makes the difference. Like in my case, I never really won anything at a national level until juniors.
Right.
But I would say it was a blessing in disguise, because the burning desire was always there.
Right.
And yeah, so there are both ways to look at it. But I think it definitely helps if you start young.
Right. So tell me, as a coach, when you have kids who come in as young as an 8 and 9-year-old, how difficult, or then rather, maybe like you said, that it is easier to mold them, how easy is it for you to mold them mentally into being dedicated to the sport, into being completely committed versus the fact that they are growing up and, they have childhood desires? There are times when they will get swayed. There are times when they will want to do a lot more other than the sport. Teenage angst. There's a lot that one deals with even as a coach when you are a sort of mentor to them. What would you have to say to that?
I think as a coach or as coaches, I think we have a certain way of doing things when it comes to molding the kids. It's a step-by-step process. Like when a kid joins in at a beginner level, the basic idea is for them to enjoy the sport. Nothing more than that. So at different levels, you deal with them in different ways. Somebody who's playing at a district level or winning at a state level, you start pushing them in a different way, not just physically but mentally also. Somebody who's really playing well at a national or international level, it's a very hard process which they have to go through. But I think most important is from the age of 8 to 16. That is the period when the kids are uh, a lot dependent, I would say mostly dependent on their parents. And I think that is what is very crucial for the kids, that at home the parents also have to be putting in the right inputs for them. And
Right.
that is where I think a lot of places we go wrong, because that's the first thing I do at the academy, that when the kids join, we have parents meetings,
Right.
where I give them an overall perspective of sport. And also I explain to them, because the first thing what happens now that we've got Sindhu winning medals, Saina was doing so well, so many of them doing well, the first thing that parents come, oh, I want my kid to become like a Saina or a Sindhu or a Shrikant. which
Right.
is a good thing. Okay, but what happens is if they overdo it, it puts too much pressure on the kids and it
Right.
leads to burnout.
Right.
So all these things are very important.
Right. So injuries too then become a part of the journey, especially with badminton being a sport
Yeah.
which you could have an ankle twist on a day completely unknown, or an elbow. So what is then your message to these players who are coping with major setbacks, especially when they are much younger, where mentally it affects them far more than it does physically? Do you really think then the role of these sports experts becomes so much more important? And did you have access to it at your times, even if there were a few?
I think sports injuries is a part of the process of becoming a champion. There's nobody who's reached the top without having to go through that. Okay,
Right.
but I think most important is to believe in the system wherever you are training. What happens is, because of so much of social media and so much of bombardment of information, you
Right.
have everybody wanting and trying to do 101 things. Okay,
Right.
and in the
Right.
process they don't realize that you're increasing your chances of injury much more.
Right.
Because in sport it doesn't work that, yes, of course there are theories that you should be doing 10,000 hours of training, but there is a theory to that also as to what is the loading required and in how much time that has to be done.
Yes, and very rightly, like you said, that uh, the importance of building trust and rapport with the coach. Who so even like in our country, primarily the coach is the nutritionist, and the coach is the physiotherapist, and a coach is the mental health expert. The coach is the trainer. He's an all-in-one. And yet, uh, do you think that that is enough? Do you think that there
See,
is the need of the hour, especially when we look towards making India a more competitive sport, playing, having more medals, getting there in, sending a bigger contingency in the Olympics, aiming for more medals? Do you think the entire support system of sports experts then coming down to the grassroots levels is more important, or you think that the coach up to a certain level is the be it all and know it all that's required for these kids?
that's why I think the countries I think India as a country, as a sporting nation, is doing a lot of things right now. And we are seeing it in terms of the results, especially at this Tokyo Olympics, where we've won 7 medals. It's our best result. So I think at a national level, to do what it takes at an international level, we are doing a lot of things right. Because at that stage, once you reach at the highest level, uh, making a champion, there are at least 10 to 15 people around who are working all around to get that player a success, or that team a success. Whether you see it's hockey or badminton or weightlifting or uh, javelin or all the medals that we won, boxing, wrestling. It's not just the player; it's the entire support staff and the entire team. So I think the nation as a whole is doing the right things, but I think in an individual capacity, till the child reaches that stage, okay, whether it's a national level or international level, whichever system you're in, like I said, again, it boils back to belief in the system. And yes, it is the job of the coach to ensure that the players are getting at that level everything that is required, especially in terms of, like you said, mental health or physiotherapy or all these things which are required at that level. But again, it boils down to belief in the system, is what
Right.
I would say.
Right. You are very expressive about your views and ideas, especially through your columns. Uh, has there been anything that you are very, very vocal about and vociferous about, that you think is required to make a change in our system currently?
I think education of sporting parents.
Right.
I always feel that that is something, because now what will happen is, my biggest fear is that with India winning 7 medals at the Olympics, it's a great thing. But there's going to be mad hysteria around. And if it's in a positive way, it's good. But I think we need to educate all the sporting parents around, because at the end of the day, it's not only the kids, it's the entire support staff. And like I said, until the age of 16, it's more the parents who are giving that support to the kids. So I always tell parents in my academy that be involved with your kids' sport, but don't be over involved. There's a big difference in that. When I say be involved, means take care of all the needs that are required. Okay, that they need nutrition, they need to sleep well, they need to eat right, they need to hydrate themselves well. It is your job to ensure that they keep coming to training every day. This is being involved. But over involvement means going to 101 places and trying out different things. And of course everybody wants their kid to do well, but they don't understand they're hurting the kids in the process. And that's something which is my biggest fear, because today in social media, the moment somebody sees somebody doing something somewhere here, there, this, that, it makes a big it creates a big problem. And it's not about going anywhere. I always say it's not that I'm telling people that you should be only in my academy or some particular academy. Wherever you are, believe in the system. That's very, very important going forward.
And talking about badminton.
Also, one more thing which I would like to add to that, which I also share with parents, is I always believe that, and maybe some parents don't like it, I always tell them in my meetings that let your child achieve their dreams and not yours. Okay, because what happens is, like, a lot of times when we have game sessions or a lot of these matches sessions, you have these parents sitting outside and doing sign language as to how they're supposed to play and this and that. And it puts so much pressure on the kids, which they don't realize.
Yes, especially like we've seen, the moment the face of the parent drops when the child has made probably a mistake or lost a point, it really sort of, the morale goes down for a child. And so is it that you think parents not being around kids is so much better or less pressure for them?
Not really. If you look at all the champions, look at the history of champions from India. Saina Nehwal, I don't think her father has ever hardly been there at her matches. Even if he's been there in the stand, you wouldn't even know that that's Saina's father. Or if it was Gopi's father, if it was Shrikant's father, do you think his father was sitting out or mother was sitting out? And no, I mean, it's not required, because once you reach that level, the player knows what is to be done. In fact, you're harming the child if you're going to keep giving instructions every now and then. Okay, so if you see any of the champions, nobody is. It's okay if they're around. Okay, but like my parents, I don't remember even if my father was sitting in the stands, no one would ever even know that he's my father. Okay, now this is what is very important for the parents to understand, I feel.
Coming to badminton, even though it is not a very resource-intensive sport or a contactless sport, yet do you think it has got the kind of exposure that it is required at our regular school and district levels so far, or do you think we still lack in it?
I think it's really picked up a lot, because I would say, especially after Saina becoming world number 1 and winning that first Olympic bronze medal in badminton in 2012, it really made a big difference, because a lot of parents wanted their kids to, especially girls, to start playing badminton. And that was a very good positive sign. And over the years, I think a lot has been done. Gopi's done a great job with Indian badminton. It's because of him that today we are at this level. And all these players, Sindhu, Saina, Shrikant, Sai Praneeth, I mean, the way they have brought laurels for them and the country, it's really picked up a lot. I think definitely at a grassroots level, we have lakhs of kids playing. I think after cricket, badminton at some point is the number two sport being played the most, if I'm not wrong. And if you look at any, say, district level or state level tournament, you have over 1,000 kids playing,
Right.
which is phenomenal. I mean, the level of competition. And I think
Right.
that's a good sign.
Right. So who do you think
Yeah.
is the next big potential for Indian badminton, apart from all of the names that we hear of now?
See, the level of competition is quite high. The unfortunate thing is, because of the pandemic, we've lost almost a year and a half. So that's been a challenge. But I think one name, if I had to take over the next few years, it would be obviously Lakshya Sen, because he's really been doing well. He was junior world number one,
Right.
already in the top 25 in the world in men's
Right.
singles.
Right.
And I would say he is our next best bet in the immediate future, I would say.
Right. Right. Uh, Premier Badminton League has actually also taken up the country like a storm, just as the IPL actually did for cricket. In your opinion, how much of the impact do you think the league has in introducing these newer talents to the country? And have they been able to elevate their performance after having got this platform?
I think the league was the best thing to happen when it first started off as the IBL in 2013. On the lines of cricket, the cricket league, just like that, for badminton, it helped in a way where, mainly the juniors of the country who would have otherwise taken so much time to get into the senior ranks and travel and play international tournaments. You have the best in the world come over into your country, and you get to be part of their team. Even if you get to be around them, that itself makes a big difference. And I think the leagues have given that opportunity to the upcoming juniors of the country. Of course, the existing top players also and the juniors. When they're all staying alongside each other for, say, 2 to 3 weeks, that itself makes a big difference, because it basically changes the mindset of the player. Somebody who probably has that issue of belief, where will I ever be able to make it, or will I not make it? Just being around, say, so many of them just got a chance to be around a Saina or around a Carolina Marin or Victor Axelsen, part of the team, part of their team building process, got to see how they train,
Right.
what they do. All these things are very, very important. And I think the league played a very big role in doing that.
Right. You've also been very vocal about your disagreements off the court. Do you think that we really still need some reforms in our sport hierarchy of the country?
I don't think so at the moment. Okay, in the sense, I think, like I said, at a national level, we are doing a lot of things right. I wouldn't say that anything is going wrong as such. It doesn't immediately come to my mind. But I think that's for the National Association to look into these
So
issues. That's what I
tell
would
me
say.
something then, that what is required for us as a nation, and say a badminton playing nation where now it is one of the most popular sports, to produce international players as much as we are able to get them at a national level? What do you think is required to make that jump from national to international?
I think mainly the success all depends on your bench strength, okay, which I think we need to work on, because we have had a very good generation of players who have been groomed. But I think we need to make our bench strength stronger, which means the generations which are going to be there in the future. So that's something which I think, and I think we should tap more and more kids from all over the country. I mean, India is such a big country and such a popular, second most populated country on the planet. So I think in 1.3 billion, I think we should tap every state. And like, for example, the Northeast or the North, or normally we see badminton players coming out from certain pockets of the country. And I don't think it should be like that, because we have all kinds of races. If you see, we have the Chinese race in the Northeast, and China is one of the best in badminton, China, Malaysia. So why not tap into those guys? Okay.
Right.
we have from the north. I mean, Haryana has been so good with their sports policy and stuff like that. So I'm sure we can also make Saina herself is basically from Haryana.
Right.
So why not really look at and they are also doing well in badminton. But I think we can really give players from all over the country that kind of support, and I think that will help us in creating the next generation of players and a continuous stream of champions.
Right. So do you think that in producing this continuous stream of champions and also making this shift from national to international, um, the new age technology, the use of AI, the use of AR, everything is now more vital than it was ever before?
It is, but again, I think all of that matters only once you've crossed a certain level. Okay, the challenge with us, what happens is that we try to look into the highest sports science and highest this and highest that right from a very young age, where my system is that we need to go step by step, and you need to reach a level first. Okay, for example, if you're not even winning at a district and state level, okay, what is the point of going into the deeper aspects or finer aspects of the other things? Like parents come to me and say, "Arey, sir, what nutrition should I do? This, that." I said, "Ghar ka khana is good enough."
Right.
Let the kid reach a level first. Then all of this, yes, everything matters. Everything matters once you reach, like for example, Sindhu's level or Saina's level or anybody who's playing at an international level.
Right.
Okay, every small thing matters. Right from the nutrition that you need a nutritionist, you need a sports psychologist, you need a good physio, you need all these things. But reach that level first, reach a basic level first, after which everything is very important.
Right. How much do you then support these sports startups or the innovations in the sports industry as a stepping or a springboard for the future of sports?
Like an example, when you say startups?
We have startups who are into tech, supporting, like we said, that they are looking at AI, they are talking about data, they're talking about game analysis, they are looking at everything from the kind of racket you should use to the kind of string strength. So all of this has now become based on AI. Then it was previously based on coaches telling you what racket to use, what strength to use based. So there is a lot more science that is going on into all of these things now. What is your take on it?
I think it's very important. And I think the best way for them to study it, or I would say experiment on it, or figure out what works best, would be like, let's say, our league system.
Right.
Where you have the top players in the world from all over, all different countries playing under one roof. So I think the league system is a good place to start off with. Or let's say the national academy, national centers also, where all the top players of the country are together when they are in the camps and all these things. Of course, these are things which have to be done during the off season, and I'm sure they are doing it at a national and international level. At the national level, I would say, because otherwise you wouldn't see these kind of results which we are getting.
Tell me something. Would you say that coaching the coach is also an important aspect of any sport?
I think it's extremely important, because today, unfortunately, what also happens is that the coaching sector is so unorganized, and then because of social media, you have everybody putting all sorts of things on social media and confusing everybody as to who's really delivering, who's really coaching, and who's not. So I think there has to be a structure in place where probably there has to be registration of coaches. There has to be some kind of certification for coaches.
Right.
Based on, for me, I always say that a coach can be only of two types. One is either he or she should have played at a certain level, and when I say certain level, they should have had say whatever, represented the country or whatever, or they should have produced a champion. These are the, I would say, qualifications that we should look at uh, when we talk about a coach, and that is why coaching the coaches is very important. And I think Olympic Gold Quest OGQ is doing a great job with that when they have a coach the coaches program which
Right.
runs around.
Right. Nikhil, I'm going to ask you some fun badminton questions. And we are going to pick your badminton brain over this. What is the most difficult badminton skill to master?
I think there would be a lot, but I think the backhand is something which really needs a lot of work.
What do you think would be the right weight range for a badminton racket?
I'm very bad at all these things. So, because I always believe that you give me any racket or any shuttle and I should still be able to play. So, if you ask me how many
Awesome.
grams a badminton racket is, I would be really very bad at that.
So would you suggest a racket for a new learner when they come and ask whether I should use a Yonex or I should use a Leaning or I should use a Victor? Or would you say learn to play the game first and then we get to your strength and your string tension?
I always say, again, it boils down to the same thing. I always say until you reach a certain level, just play with a basic, simple racket. There's no need to spend $10 on a racket when you're at a beginner level.
Right.
So,
and we have plenty full of them coming with learning over the internet, with parents having compared notes, everyone knowing which is the newest market, or the newest racket in the market. What do you then say to these? I mean, how do you then say to these parents to just use something as basic, and how do you make them agree to it?
No, it's basically because I play with any racket given to me. Okay, like even when I played the 35 plus World Championship, I don't even remember which racket I played with. Of course, we are sponsored by Leaning, so it was a Leaning racket. But sometimes the Mr. Mahinder Kapoor, who's the director of Sunlight Sports Leaning, he also gets very surprised because when I asked him for a particular racket, he said, this is not even a high-end racket. So, but I like that racket. So, as I said, with the parents, I always tell them when they start off, just get a very basic racket. And I think it's also something for the kids to aspire for, that as they get better and better, it can be as a reward that they get the high-end equipment.
Right. Oh, that's a great thought. So what parts of the body or muscles are most important for badminton?
I think badminton is a very physical sport. So practically, most of the muscles of your body have to be in good shape. But I would say most important are your knees, your ankles, your back, your core strength, your shoulders. I would say these are the main.
Is there any innovative badminton move or shot that the players can develop to gain an advantage over their opponent?
Yeah, I think it's playing different strokes with the same action, which we call as deception. And something which I worked on a lot when I was playing, and that was my strong point, and something which I try to teach the kids all the time, because we Indians are very good at skill. So in one action, playing a drop shot, clear, or a half smash is something which I would say is important.
Doubles or singles, which one of them do you think is more challenging in badminton?
I think either of them will hate me for saying the other. I would put it as singles is definitely you have to run around a lot because you have to cover the whole court. But doubles is a lot of reflexes required, and it's doubles is more exciting to watch, I would say.
Right. The hairpin net shot has been given a lot of importance in most international matches. Do you really think that is a very, very necessary armor in the player's kit?
What do you mean by the hairpin net shot?
So the one which is just absolutely
close to the net.
close to the net and just drops over the net.
Yeah, so I think that's something which is very crucial at certain stages, because that if you get a good close dribble at the net or a good shot close to the net, it automatically opens up a good opening, because a weak opening, because it becomes difficult for the opponent to return that shot. And even if they do, it would be mid-court or something like that. So I think the hairpin net shot is something which takes years to master. And that's something which Prakash sir was the greatest at. And I think Gopi was excellent at that. And I think if you see any good player from India, they would have mastered that shot at some point.
How does one teach, or how does then one master this shot?
It's easier said than done. But what is important is you're always on the move in badminton on the court. So the trick is to be able to move quick to the net, but at the same time, you have to have your hand very steady to play that shot. Because otherwise, if you're moving quick to the net and you don't have a steady hand to control the shot is going to fall, net shot is going to fall away from the net, which doesn't make sense and doesn't help in any way. So that's I think how it's supposed to be worked on.
Right. Apart from the fact that both a smash and a drop are an important aspect of any game, how would you rate the two of them? Which one is more important for you, do you think, for a player to have to be able to win a game?
I think both are important. Every stroke in the book is important. The drop, the smash, the half smash. In badminton, it's all about playing the right stroke at the right time. And that's something which has to be learned. And if you're good at executing all the strokes, it's not necessary that you have to only hit a hard smash every time to get a point. Sometimes with your deception, even with the delicate drops or half smashes, you can still score.
Right. What have been your tricks that you have used to get to winning your games? Would you share some?
I think I was considered two things were my strong points when I was playing. One is I used to jump and play strokes, something which only the Chinese were known to do, or the Malaysians were known to do at that point of time. So it was a very natural thing which came to me. And on top of that, I was very deceptive. So I used to jump, and when I used to jump, it was very difficult to read whether I'm playing a smash or a drop. That's something which I worked on. And I think my strength was I was a left-hander. So my strength was the overhead cross-court drop, which the opponents used to find it difficult.
Right. Nikhil as a coach or Nikhil as a player, who would you rate better?
I don't have a problem with either. Completely different things. So Nikhil as a coach, Nikhil as a player, when I look at myself as a player, any player, it's all about myself. Okay, because you're trying to improve yourself. But Nikhil as a coach, when you're into the coaching field, it's all about the other people. So it's all about imparting the knowledge that you have to everybody. So I would say they're two different things, and I enjoyed doing both.
Right. And one last question before we end, to get something from you for everyone who's an absolute badminton enthusiast and a player out there. What would be some tips that you think you can give us today?
I think as a sport, most important thing is that keeping badminton aside, I think everybody should be involved in a sport first. That's the most important thing. Considering the pandemic and all these things, sport is something going forward very important for everyone to remain healthy and fit. With regards to badminton, I think it's one of the best sports because it covers everything. You enjoy playing the sport, you run around a lot, uh, and you keep yourself fit. Badminton as a sport also teaches you a lot of things. Most important lesson that I've learned is to get over failure. I always say that badminton is the sport which, or I would say all sports, you cannot succeed in sport without failing. And only when you fail enough times, you realize how to convert it to success. And I think that is the biggest lesson that we get to learn. Uh, I think badminton also will help us achieve our dreams, because we all dream about achieving something. And I think it's a step-by-step process. But once you reach your final goal, like for me as a kid, I always dreamt that, I want to go to the Olympics. And I come from Pune. So from Pune, there was no one who had been to the Olympics. So when that dream came true, I think it was one of the best moments of my life. And I think I would encourage everybody to dream big, that's what I would say. Yeah.
On this note of everyone to having achieved their dreams step by step process, and to also know and trust in the process, we thank Nikhil Kanetkar so much for all his valuable inputs today. Thank you everyone for watching, liking and supporting. Do continue. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.